Good morning, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of interest? Right after we do roll call, I'm going to ask about interest. So just be ready. Go for it, Sarah. If only the vice chair would step up and run these meetings. Okay. Okay. Any disclosures of interest? Seeing none. All right. Let's go down to the minutes from September the Works Committee meeting, September 6th, 2003. Okay. Seconder? All in favor? That's carried. Welcome, Mr. Chair. All right, we're down to 7.2. This is report 2023 WR7, and it's in regards to the landfill mining project. Would move it? Okay, second by Tito. Questions, comments? All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we're now down to 8.1. This is correspondence from Clarington, and we do have our friend Councillor Wu with us this morning. What would we like to do with this? Tito? Oh, just a second, we need a mic.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I think staff have probably had some consultation with the visiting councillor. If we could just get the commissioner to advise what his comfort level is and yours, Mr. Chair, then we'd be able to proceed with the correspondence.
Okay.
Through the chair, we will respond to Clarington Council in writing to follow up with the motion there. The summary situation currently is as follows. Like we completed the EA in 2021. Yeah. I'll acknowledge there was a bit of a delay, during the pandemic. Like we did complete it in 2021, and we couldn't commence the design until we had certainty on the land acquisition.
Sure.
Which happened, and since then, currently we are at a stage where we are doing a request for proposal. Like we have already pre-qualified the consultants to advance design on this, along with other reservoirs and pumping stations in Whitby and Oshawa and so on in the single package. We are expecting to do the design next year, which is 2024 and 2025, allowing us to commence construction in 26, completing it in 2027. That's the current time frame we are working towards.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. Through you, Mr. Chair, just wanted to ask, is there anyone on the critical path in this particular case? Are we in line for that timeline, or is there something that's going to obstruct us from meeting that at the municipal level, maybe through Clarington? Are we coordinated?
Yeah, and we're also doing, we've already done a pre-qualification, so we're going to be dealing with a narrow list of designers. So we're quite confident we're going to be starting the design, in early 2024. And also, we are working with the developer to be able to proceed with their phase 1 development with an interim booster pumping station. That way they can get into their phase 1 work. And, currently they are approved for about 900 units in the draft plan, subdivision plan. And we are able to accommodate, half or more of that.
Sure.
Based on a temporary booster pumping station. We've received the design from Brookfield about a week or 2 ago. And we are reviewing, and we are confident we can advance that.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. To you and the department, through you, Mr. Chair, I do have a motion, but I don't want to move the motion and preclude visiting councillor from being able to speak to the item or ask questions. But I would just, reserve my comments for when I'm prepared to move the motion, because it seems like staff have got everything in hand and that things are moving forward. There's nothing on the critical path that's going to obstruct that. And we're very sensitive to making sure that housing gets to market. Don't want to be the cause of that not happening. And I do want to thank the Commissioner and the department through you for ensuring that these timelines are not only met, but that they're advanced and even expedited if possible. So I'll cede the floor to you in the case that Councillor Wu would like to ask questions or speak. Otherwise, I'll move a motion.
Okay, next on the speaker's list is Chair Henry.
Thank you. Just one quick question, and I'm not sure that we have the answer in the room today. Do we know what the allocated allotment for water and sewer that is available now that hasn't been used? So, for example, how many builders are sitting on stuff that have been sitting on it for 10 years, where they already have their allocation? And if that process was changed, and if their intent wasn't to build now, reallocating that use to them when the station is finished, and then moving that allocation that is currently existing on, is that something we could think about?
Yeah, through the chair, I don't have those numbers yet, but I am working with Commissioner Bridgman to bring a report, like, because that is a challenge across the board, not just in Clarington, where many builders have been sitting on land, with allocation, formal or informal. So we are bringing a report together. I think, like, we are aiming for the December timeframe, where, like, some of the data is also in the local municipalities. So it's taking us some time, and Mr. Bridgman has reached out to the local municipalities. We will be coming back with a report. But that is truly a reality.
Okay. I think well, I'll move to you in just a second. And Tito, you've got a question as well? Okay. Yeah, sure. And I just, on this, we're going to have very intense growth throughout the region in the very near future. There's going to be a lot of moving, balls in the air as we try and figure out how we can get water and services, across the board to a number of different people. I think we may want to have a focused approach to make sure that this committee are serving all of our members in the most appropriate way possible. And, the chair has some excellent ideas, but we need to make sure that we are not the reason why people aren't in homes and that we're not holding up this process. So I think there's going to have to be some meetings, set up with mayors and local councillors and maybe some of their staff to make sure that we are not moving projects forward ahead of others that are less urgent.
Yeah. And if I may add, Mr. Chairman, like in the January timeframe, we are also trying to bring a report that will look at all the housing pledges across the 8 municipalities and look at what the water and sewer, we already have a good handle. It's not like we're waiting for January to move on it, but at least to give a clear picture to Works Committee and Committee of the Whole, because we need like 7 or 8 reservoirs and pumping stations across the region. Whitby water supply plant has to be expanded. Duffin Creek has to be modified and expanded for the Upper York sewage solution. There's lots in play. Nothing is waiting for that report. Like, we are acting on many aspects, including meeting with MECP on the water supply plant expansion and all these reservoirs and pumping stations. With foresight, we already have pre-qualified consultants, just to give us a little more confidence in terms of keeping schedule on design, and we'll do the same thing with the pre-qualification of contractors, all this to give some certainty. But at the end of the day, allocation is also a challenge that will be addressed in that report, because the last thing you want to do is like have these all stranded assets. These plants, like when you expand them, and if there's no users paying for the water and sewer, it's an expensive, it's not like a road project, $10-15 million I could do Simcoe widening. Water supply plant expansion, like Whitby is what? We are sitting at $240 million. We really hope, like, one of the things, like, our CEO has given clear direction. Yes, there's some uncertainty in the market and so on, but we are not going to let that stop getting projects to a shovel-ready status. We are going to go full speed on planning, EAs and design and so on. But just before tendering, we will keep an eye on like where things are, because like, the last thing you want is like stranded assets in terms of plants and water and sewer distribution network. So we know there are challenges ahead, but I think like we've got a good game plan, and hopefully in January, like you will all see staff have a clear strategy on like how to keep ourselves in line with the housing pledges, the housing market, but at the right time, like, react if we need to take alternate paths.
Okay, we do have Councillor Wu on the speakers list. You ready now, Councillor? Go ahead, Willie.
Yeah, and thank you to the chair and allowing me to speak and participate. Obviously, this is something that I'm familiar with because I just live south of this development. But having said that, when I was on council previously, and this goes back to 2014 to 2018, in that period, development within Newcastle, new developments, and one in particular that I can speak to, I can remember receiving calls and emails regarding water pressure. And at that time, staff had mentioned that once we get the reservoir and pumping station in place, that would help the situation. Now, that's not to say they were without water, but it was a case where water pressure, and so it was contemplated back at that particular time that this would go ahead. And I couldn't find the staff report, and I think most councillors know water and sewer, there's always a PowerPoint presentation saying, you know, this is what's going to happen, you know, expansion of Dufferin Creek, Corbett, you know, Whitby, and water and sewer. And if I'm not mistaken, this was in there at that particular time. And like I said, that was when I was on council in 2014 to 2018. But I can't put my hands on that. I tried to go back on agendas. But when I look at, and I think yourself and the acting commissioner received correspondence from Brookfield and outlining the timelines that was proposed, and you go right back to 2016 when the Schedule B Class EA. But then I look at what was suggested by the region, February 25 of 2021, if I'm just looking at design work, Q4 2021, now we're looking at the most up-to-date September 2023, design work 2024, and without going through the other stuff, you know, construction, tendering, but commissioning 2024, that was suggested February 25 of 2021. Now we're saying commissioning Q1 2028. This puts them at a, let's say, a disadvantage. And again, we're looking at right now 1,000 homes, and then in the other phase, another 1,000 homes. So for us in Clarington, we're trying to meet this housing pledge. I think it was talked about. We pledged 13,000 homes by 2031, and I know other municipalities are trying to meet their deadlines. Now, if you don't meet those deadlines, I don't know what the penalties are. You know, that seems to be a moving target. I appreciate what the acting commissioner mentioned about the interim booster pumping unit. Now, is there something, and I'm just going to ask a question, for all municipalities that are facing maybe these types of challenges, is there contemplation about having developers front-end some of these projects so that we can move ahead, so they can move ahead?
Through you, Chairman. Subject to correction, interim booster pumping stations, for example, like, you know, the developer can pay for it. But there are several severe restrictions that I'm sure Mr. Hunt can speak to on the DC legislation and so on as to what can we get the developers to pay. You know, like as simple as a traffic signal, you cannot get a developer to pay unless it's providing direct access. So the same constraints apply on water and sewer as well. And if I may take the chance to just address a few other comments, Chairman. We will get you the 2021 and 2022 and 2023 maybe water sewer presentations, just so you can get that history on like where things were. In terms of like the years that you quoted when we had budgets for EA and design, it is not atypical to have EAs move. Like, you know, we try to put it in the envelope for the future years. Then we are trying to monitor the funding envelope. Obviously, like there was a pandemic in between. And then we are also looking for like, you know, is the land use catching up? Do we need this yet? Or are we going to have a stranded asset? So we are always like, you know, trying to, like our water sewer department is on top of things in coordination with the local municipality, in this case, Clarington as well. And like I said, we will work with the developer in this case, both in terms of the interim booster pumping station and do our darn best to get this commission like in the timeframes that I've committed to.
Well,
Oh, sorry, if I may,
Yeah,
Counselor.
sure.
Just, I meant to address your other comment about low water pressure. You are right in this area. You know, I'm quite familiar with this area now, having driven to Arthur Street recently. There is documented water pressure complaints, but we have confirmed, like, you know, we always have met the minimum requirement. But with the new reservoir and pumping station, the reservoir being about 7 meters higher than the existing one, which will be decommissioned, they will see a significant improvement in water pressure when completed.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Now, I can speak, and again, living in Newcastle, and just, in fact, this development is just north of myself. Developer is not sitting on this, where it has basically been in a holding pattern, if I can say that, and they've expended quite a bit of money to get the services up to that point because they had to go under CP overpass. It is there now. They are developing. It's not, I can't speak to other developers and what they're doing as far as just hang it on and to land that is developable. We have some of those in Clarington, and again, but this one, they do want to move ahead. And that's in some ways why I'm here too, because I know how long this has been going on. And when I see commissioning Q1 of 2028, that's quite a while. And for them, and especially 3 years after that, to try to get those homes built, to finish off that second phase of 1,000 homes. This interim booster pumping unit, I think that would tie them over for, was it 600 homes? 600 units?
Yeah, 500 to 600, it really, you know, like I said, we just got the design, like, you know, we are still reviewing it.
Okay. And I think through the chair, you did suggest about maybe sitting down and looking at maybe some of the other projects that we have, but this one specifically, and if there's a way that we can help move this a little bit quicker. Like I say, we're 2023, 2028, that's 5 years, and that's a long ways to getting the commissioning, in my opinion.
Through the chairman, yeah, I've got Mr. Harris here, like, you know, who can probably speak to the details of what is involved in the design. Like, you know, obviously we have procurement to go through. Like, you know, I'm optimistic we'll be done with the procurement this year, get it started in January. And I think, like, staff are taking note of the priority that Works Committee wants to place on this, and we'll certainly take that into account as to where we could expedite this.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Here, and again, I don't know, I mean, as far as a pumping station and reservoir, but it's not a water pollution control plant that we're building.
No,
Okay, thank
it's all
you.
about clean water.
That's right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Counselor. Okay, I think we have a motion from the Vice Chair.
Yeah, I'm going to move the motion and then ask through you to clerks if I can speak on it, because there are some things that I just want to recap here. So I'm comfortable with the response provided by staff, because we've discussed, you know, in different scenarios, what it takes to get, you know, X to market or X to completion. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like, this is a process, and I know that staff are on it. So I'd move a receipt for information. Unless, you know, there's others that would like a referral to staff to include this correspondence as part of a report that will come forward about how to optimize, you know, some of the contents of what Commissioner indicated being, you know, relevant to council, maybe something that'll come forward. But I don't see that being the case. So if I could just ask through you to the Commissioner what his preference is, because I don't want to minimize, but I also don't want to set an expectation that, you know, we're not doing something that we're already on the path of doing.
Through Chairman, yeah, subject to committee's direction, of course, like, I would propose that we respond back to Clarington Council. We got it through their clerk. Basically, like, you know, laying out the facts and doing our utmost to to stay on schedule, but keep them informed on anything that blindsides us, right? Like, that would be my preference, but I'm at the will of committee.
Okay, in that case, I can still speak through you, Mr. Chair, to a referral, is that correct?
It needs to be moved and seconded, which it isn't yet, but,
So I'll move the referral to staff for response to Clarington Council.
okay, and we have a seconder. Can I throw a friendly amendment into that?
Sure.
And staff can take it as direction, but can we have all of the current projects on water, wastewater? I know these presentations exist, just have an email sent with a link for this committee and maybe for all of council, just so we can go with the current facts, where we are with timelines, things like that. That way we don't have Councillor Wu looking back, 5 years into older documents.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'll move that amendment if you wish. Is that something that we can take as a friendly, or would you like it in writing?
If I may, we are going to bring the water sewer budget and the capital forecast, I believe in November. We'll try to line it up along with that report or a memo, so we will use that as an opportunity, including there's going to be a presentation on all these projects. So in one way or another, we will address that.
So basically, you'll take it as the chair's direction, so we'll leave it at that, if that's okay. I just wanted to speak to the referral, because I do believe, under the chair's watch, in the last 2 terms, we've seen the region do some things that hasn't been done before, and it's actually helped in the capacity of attracting employment. We've serviced lands where there was reluctance to do that before. So to Chair Henry, that is a huge up in being able to position the region. Now, when it comes to housing, the chair indicated something that I'm of like mind in understanding and hoping that we can communicate, because oftentimes we're seen as being the ones, be it the municipal or the regional level, holding up development. I too would like to know how many units are able to be built today, because I think there's another reality that we all have to be honest with ourselves about, and that is compounding the housing crisis is affordability, and that doesn't just go to the lowest common denominator in startup or affordable housing. That goes to everyone. I don't think there's too many builders looking at getting into the ground and providing homes that can't be afforded. We've got rates that are, I wouldn't say in comparisons to some of our parents, astronomical, but they are very high, and it's unlikely that someone is going to, venture into the market with those rates. So builders aren't stupid. They're not going to be building that product. So we need them to be honest too, because we can't be bearing the blame for a housing crisis if those building the product aren't building it. So I would like, an honest analysis of where we're at, because we are partners in this, and the ratepayers, which are the taxpayers, I think in fairness need to know where our resources are and why they're not being engaged. And I think a lot of that has to do with affordability, and that is the Bank of Canada and the rest of the financial, global markets play something that is beyond our means. So in that case, I know that within certain municipalities, there are thousands of units that are able to be provided or go to market. And I don't know if sales are even going to be an option if things aren't more affordable for lenders or individuals who are seeking to provide this product. It is a challenge. So we've got 3 issues at hand. We're one player, the builder's another, and then we have the financial markets. So I want to make sure that through you, Mr. Chair, to the Commissioner, that Chair Henry's concerns or suggestion are addressed comprehensively, because we need to be able to say to people, we're doing everything possible to advance housing, regardless of what form. But I mean, if the most expensive form can't be advanced, how can the most affordable? It's not going to happen unless we have serviced, or we're talking about pumping stations and water and sewage available for them. And we do. We have capacity. We just need to know why it's not being used.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Vice Chair. We need to make sure that we are staying ahead of the market. And like I said earlier, and you echoed, this is a complex market right now. Things are changing very rapidly, and we need to kind of rethink what we're doing and make sure that we're ahead of the curve, and that we're not holding up projects, but without spending huge amounts of resource on projects that aren't going to happen for a decade. So sort of just in time. Yeah, and we all know that we're the most public face of this and the easiest to blame in many cases. All right, any other comments? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? That's carried and unanimously, I believe. Okay. All right, we are down to report number 2023 W38, and this is in regards to lands in Whitby for another reservoir and pumping station. Someone want to give me a motion there? Moved by Chair Henry, seconded by Councillor Yamada. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And then we're down to report number 2023 W39. And this is in regards to, again, more water pumping in Ajax. Do you want to give us a motion? Okay. Okay, so let's get it on the floor. Tito, do you want to second that? Okay, perfect. Okay, and then,
So, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. This is an unbudgeted ask in this. I'm sorry. Let me get my brain working a little bit better. This is being driven by the development in Whitby and in Pickering, is that correct?
Through the chairman, this really is an asset management / security / contingency function, like that allows us to transfer water between the Whitby, Oshawa area and the Ajax Pickering area. And in part, it's being driven by the Whitby water supply plant expansion as well, which would have us rely on this to transfer water to the Whitby area as opposed to the Whitby water supply plant. So it's really like, I wouldn't say it is directly tied to growth, but it gives you a reliance and consistency and contingency to address growth.
Right. So, yeah, my question isn't around the need for it, for sure, because I can certainly understand that. I just wondered about the unbudgeted. How did it not fit into the budget?
I'm going to guess it was just based on inspections, but I'm going to pass it on to Mr. Harris for clarification, please, through the chair.
just a second, can you push a button? You're in.
There we go. Thank you. So there is a budgeted project for next year to do the construction. This money is to pre-purchase pumps because there's a long lead time for buying the equipment. So, anywhere between 26 weeks and 52 weeks. So this funding is to purchase that equipment. So when we have a design complete and a contractor on board, it's available to complete the work.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you so much.
And again, that is the type of thinking we're talking about to make sure that we are doing things quicker. So thank you to staff for that. Right. Any other questions? Oh, sorry. Councillor Schumer. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Councillor Crawford did ask one of the questions I had, and that was the unbudgeted nature of this, which I still have some concerns about, given that, I guess this has cropped up rather quickly. But outside of that, the sole sourcing, I do have issues with sole sourcing, and I'm just wondering if staff can let us know if this did go out to tender. I mean, what does that do to this plan? I mean, does it adversely affect it as far as timelines, or I know the justification for the sole sourcing is in the report, but I'm a little uncomfortable with us losing the potential for a competitive bid process and the savings that could be attached to that. So what would be the detrimental impact of putting this out to tender?
Through you, Chairman. The impact is not as much on the timeline as it is about the only distributor in North America or US, I think, that has this pump that doesn't require any infrastructure modification in terms of retrofits. So that's really the driving factor here. there isn't more than one vendor who is able to provide a replacement pump one-to-one without any retrofits to the actual infrastructure we have in the plant. And I would like to see if Mr. Harris has more to add.
No, nothing more to add. There is just the one vendor, so when we purchase the equipment from the manufacturer in advance of a contractor doing it, we only have one vendor to purchase that from.
Okay, so there is only one vendor. It's not I'm getting conflicting answers here. It sounds like there are more than one vendor. It's just that the other vendors would require some kind of modification for the installation. Is that correct then?
So there's one pump that will fit in the station. It's the same pump as the existing pump that's used for the same purpose in the station. So it's just one product that will fit within the piping that's available. So we have one option of equipment to put in the station.
Okay, that's a little clearer then, because I thought originally there might have been more than one, and it was a matter of getting it to fit. The other issue that I'd like possibly addressed would be the financing options. I know this happens a lot where we just turn it over to the Commissioner of Finance and say, fund this thing. I too am a little uncomfortable with that. I mean, obviously this is pretty restrictive as to how it can be funded, but can you just give us the rundown of the financing options that you'll be looking at?
Obviously, we don't have anyone from finance, but typically, like, whether it's road or water or sewer projects, once it's approved here, we look back at some of the projects that have been closed which might have surplus. If we know it's gone through substantial completion, we work with finance staff to identify sources, and basically we come up with something that we don't need anymore on a project that's been closed. I will ask if Ms. Dunkley has more to add, please.
No, through the chair, you're correct, Ramesh. In this case, the source identified financing was through closed projects, and we had arrangement with the Commissioner of Finance that will be the case. We always although we'll write that it's at the discretion of Commissioner, we're aware that these are from closed projects, which we have identified earlier in the year.
Okay, so we're confident there will be savings from other projects that have obviously been approved already that will fund this.
Yes.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now, I had a visual clue from Councillor Mackay that she wanted to speak, but I have an electronic one from Councillor Nicholson. So do you want to push your button there, Rhonda, first? There you go. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Nicholson. I just want to circle back to the sole source component of this, and it's more of a commentary than a question. I'm kind of surprised that it took this report for that question to come forward about sole sourcing, because we had the bigger one last round for over $6 million for all the whirligigs and left-handed monkey wrenches that none of us know anything about on this committee. So in fairness to staff, it's very specialized equipment, and I know in my household I would be shunned if I didn't acknowledge that. I think it may be in order to ask if we potentially can have, this committee really should be having a tour of some of these facilities, because this is, we're making decisions on single source items, and I fully understand why they're single source items, because I get this lecture in my household. But I think that when we're asking the questions of staff of, is this really only one vendor? It really is. And you really kind of have to see it in its situation to acknowledge that. So I'm just going to leave that out there as a friendly, but if you have a comment, I'd be happy to hear it. Thank you.
And I think I can just take that. You are correct. This year has gone very quickly, but we need to get out and do a tour. And I'll take that as direction to me to arrange for a tour, certainly for this committee. And then I know we have some keeners that will probably want to join as well. So anyway, that we'll make sure you get out to some plants. And I came from the industrial sector, and I know that Trojan in London are the only people in Canada that make some things that we use. It's very specialized and they're very good at it, but there's not lineups. And the fact that we're saving, up to 26 weeks on a project by buying ahead of time, $350,000 is a lot in many budgets. In the water and wastewater space, it's very small. And if it saves time, time is money, and it gets more houses in the ground built faster. Anyway, I'm preaching. I apologize. You're on, Councilor Nicholson.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions, kind of both directions. Are we going to see similar procurement pre-purchases in this upcoming budget for the same type of equipment?
I don't have the answer to that question.
It just seems that we have one supplier, sometimes it's a cost savings to enter into a contract for supplying the similar equipment over a more than 1 year cycle and get the price down.
I think staff do look for opportunities to advance schedule, like similar to this one. We do have projects in the forecast where typically we would engage with a contractor to purchase the equipment directly. So yes, more opportunities will be looked at for purchasing equipment in the delivery of the program.
Okay. Second question is more to follow up on what Mayor Schumer raised. If you're asking us to approve financing, yet you have not determined what that financing is, I'm not comfortable with that. I think that's something you should have investigated before you came with this report, so you could tell us what we're approving. I was somewhat concerned by Mr. Jagannathan's comment, we will find what we don't need. With all respect, that's not a staff decision. If you bring a report forward that says you want to terminate or reduce a project that's already approved in exchange for another project, that's a committee, then a council decision. It's not something that's done behind the scenes. When we talk about full disclosure at this committee, I have no problem with sometimes reshuffling the deck occasionally, especially towards the end of the budgeting cycle. But you have to tell us. It can't be just trust us and we'll do it. When you're asking us to expend $350,000 and you're going to find source funding elsewhere, I'd like to know what's being cut. Like what's being trimmed or what's being reallocated. And will that come back and bite me in a future budget? Secondly, if we have funds available from the termination of projects that came in under budget, then that's funds available to this committee and council for other projects that might have been deferred in the budget because we didn't have the money. That's not, again, a staff decision. You provide us with your recommendations, we make the decisions at council. So I'm just somewhat concerned with the perception that I'm being left here, is that our job is simply to give you unallocated money with no knowledge of where it's coming from, and then you're going to choose what projects to spend it on. It just doesn't strike me as being a transparent process. I'm just wondering if you could comment on that.
So I'm going to jump in and then Ramesh can correct me. We're looking at 0.03% of our annual budget. So that's kind of the equivalent to one of us going to McDonald's with our yearly budget. It's a very small percentage with the types of budgets that we're looking at, especially when this is saving a big project, could build more houses faster. To me, this is good business. This is government acting like a business, which I think we hear and we talk to our residents about all the time. Again, I don't really want to debate. I'm just, that we can have staff come up with it as well.
But you are debating, Mr. Chair.
Fair enough. I'll let staff comment then.
Thank you.
Through the chairman, I will note your point, Councillor. I do want to remind though, in the last 3 or 4 works committee agendas, we've had at least 6 or 7 reports where we've had such reallocation, where we have exactly defined, for example, Simcoe Conlin to Winchester completed, and that was giving 130,000, which adds up to say $1 million price that the tender came above budget. So to the chairman's point, I'm going to think because of the smaller amount here, we took a different approach. But typically, we do show exactly the projects which have been closed, and we are reallocating from that, and we also show in the report where it's going to. Now, in this particular case, Ms. Dunkley, are we close to identifying the closed project, or is that an ongoing conversation?
We have through the chair, sorry, we have identified the closed projects, and we have said to finance, this is a list of projects that have been closed with additional financing. And this is where this 350 was identified to be used from.
Just as one additional point, sometimes it has to do with the committee cycle. We have to hit this date. Maybe if we had another 2 days, we would have identified that. I just wanted to put that position to you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to be clear. I'm not proposing that we don't do this. I'm just putting a little red flag here to say, folks, where it's possible to identify the source of reallocated funding, that should be put in the report. And if that's standard, that's great. In this case, it wasn't. I'm hearing now that we actually have that information. I don't know why it wasn't brought forward as an addendum, so simply to say, here's the information in adjacent to 23W39. I just think our transparency can't just be at the committee. There are another, 21 plus counselors plus public who want to know why we're doing this. We can have a wonderful discussion verbally here at committee, but there's no record of the conversation moving forward. So I think it helps, save questions at the council as well, because they're going to have the information as opposed to simply leaving it out there, and then we're going to sit through these same questions from our colleagues when we could have provided them with information. And I would suggest, if we've identified the source of funding for this, possibly when this goes to council, that we provide an addendum to this report, simply indicating this is now the source of funding has been identified. Therefore, councilors are fully aware when they make their vote on the final proposal at council. Thank you.
Okay. Any other speakers on this? I don't see any. We have a mover and a seconder. All in favor? That's carried. All right, just bear with me here, folks. All right, we are down to, we have a couple speakers. We'll go Chair Henry first. Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And if staff is contemplating tours for this committee, I think it's important that we tour some of our infrastructure in the north. We have a water treatment plant in Beaverton. We have a depot in Sunderland. We have, not that it's a topic that we want to really talk about, but we operate sewage lagoons. I don't know if we've seen that. So I don't know how you plan to do this, but may I suggest that you pick a day or part of a day every quarter, and pick 3 or 4 items, and we'll do the north one day, and then we'll work our way down or work our way up. But there's important infrastructure that we need to see, and members of this committee and council should be aware of some of the working conditions of our staff. And I think doing a coordinated tour would be an excellent idea. I'll leave it with staff to plan it for committee, but we run community wells in Sunderland that are very different from water treatment plant, and trying to understand that, or understanding a presentation here in this chamber to understand how that works, I think it would be important for this committee to have an understanding.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And the other thing I was thinking, a good reason to do it in a smaller scale first is it allows you to kind of comprehend everything that's happening in a smaller tour. Where if you get into the much larger facilities, it might almost feel overwhelming because you have to go so far to see each stage of the process. So sometimes smaller is better. All right. Any other comments, Mr. Chair? Okay. Next to Councillor Nicholson.
Yeah, I'm assuming we're at other business.
Yeah.
Yeah, just want to make sure, didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I've got a couple of questions on a project that I'm hearing some information in Oshawa that there are some discussions ongoing regarding the former Ritson School site, where there is some consideration being given to demolishing the school as part of our fact-finding processes that are ongoing. Is it possible for this committee, as we are the real estate committee, to be provided an update on the progress of that project and either a confirmation or a rejection of whether or not we are considering the demolition of Ritson School as one of the options still under consideration.
So our CAO just popped up on the screen. I'm guessing that's because she wants to speak. Go ahead. I think your mic's on. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And sorry to be participating remotely. Just to comment, we're still in the community engagement phase of Richmond Road. We will be reporting back in the new year with options for the facility. I have not heard of discussions about demolishing it. We know there is a heritage component, and we are certainly interested in looking at what the possible community uses for the school could be after the necessary renovations, and also what we could do with the rest of the site. So we will be coming back with the results of that process. I'm not quite sure about the timing, but I will say possibly early in the new year.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the consultation that's going on. My concern is the demolition of the site one of the options being presented in the consultation? Because to date, we have not indicated that support for that at council.
No, we have not. And my understanding was that was not one of the options. But Christine, I'm not sure if you have been more involved than that. Are you able to comment at all?
Thanks, certainly, through the chair. There are no options presented. The consultation is just to find out what the residents would want to see at the facility. So there's nothing, we're not presenting to residents that we're going to be demolishing. The consultation is to find out what would you want to see, and from that consultation, it will be decided what do we do with the facility.
All right. I'm going to be more blunt with this question. If these answers are correct, and I have no reason to indicate they're not, why are staff approaching lower tier staff and raising the possibility of the demolition of Ritson School as a future item to be considered during our planning and development processes?
Councillor, I'm really not aware of those discussions. I know that our team are working closely with Oshawa's staff to determine a use for the site. I also believe we've submitted some applications for consideration to federal government for funding. But as Christine said, we are not at this point anticipating demolition of the building. Part of the building is a designated heritage site, and we certainly know our responsibilities there. But that is not a decision that we would unilaterally make. It would have to come back to council with the other options. And as Christine pointed out, we're just not there yet.
Okay, and I do appreciate that, CO. My concern, obviously, is both as a regional council, I'm also the Oshawa's Heritage Advisory Committee representative. We've made very strong commitments over the years to preserve that building, not just the site, but the building. The region's expended considerable funds rehabilitating that building to remove certain contaminants and things that were there over the years. Virtually everybody I've talked to in the community is off the mind that our commitment was to repurpose the building, not the site. I mean, there is going to be a part of the site that's going to be available for other repurposing, but the building was going to be retained as part of whatever plan we were bringing forward. I just want to be assured that the building's preservation and rehabilitation and repurposing is still the intent of the regional council. And whatever options come out of the consultation, that one is not negotiable. So can I get some confirmation on that?
I can assure you I have not heard anything about demolishing the building. I don't want to comment on discussions that I haven't been part of between our respective staffs, but the intention was always that we would be maintaining the building given its heritage status and looking at how it could be repurposed for community uses. It cannot be repurposed for residential uses because of some of the complexities in the building. So I assure you no decision has been made. Staff would not make that decision. We'd have to bring it back to council for approval, and the prospect of demolition has not been brought forward to me at any point.
I thank you for that. I'm definitely assured now by your answer. I do appreciate that very much. My second question is, I don't know if you can answer this or not, and that may be something we have to wait another month. Given the the recent decision on setting the budgetary target for taxation. At this point, have we have any idea of what rate increase is coming forward for our water and sewer processes? Because obviously people are greatly concerned about that as well.
Finance staff are working through that, so I cannot give you an answer to that right now. As soon as we do hear, though, we're happy to reach out.
Okay, I do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so next we've got Councillor Yamada. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And under new and unfinished business, I don't know if folks have heard about a project that's going forward in East Whitby. I think the address is 1635 Dundas. There is, from my understanding and from listening to last night, there's about $4.8 million being provided at the discretion of the Commissioner of Finance to provide remedial work on the proposed facility. Would we be able to get a memo of some such, sort of itemizing how that $4.8 million is going to be spent? And that's really only on the first floor. And I would be curious to know what the thought, and maybe I have to take this next question to Finance and Administration, but how much more is going to be spent on the second floor and the third floor?
Yeah,
I
go
can
ahead.
do that, if you'd like. Through you, Mr. Chair. We're happy to provide a memo on the work that is being done on phase one. We do not have any projections for further phases because, as you know, we're in the consultation process with the community to determine what the best use for the remainder of the building would be. Our plan is to report back on that in the new year, and any capital requirements we would be positioning in a business case that we would take to both our provincial and federal partners. So there will be more to come when the consultation process has ended.
But I would think the mold and asbestos is not just on the first floor. I was told by PSWs who used to work at Sunnycrest that the third floor was condemned because of mold.
Obviously, we would have to address all of those requirements as we are in phase one. So that would be part of the budget. But again, until we know how we're going to renovate it, I cannot give you an estimate of what those costs would be. We're just not there yet. And obviously, renovation options would have to be presented to council. And the plan is to do that in the new year. And again, given the nature of this facility and the opportunities that it provides, we do see that there will be great potential for provincial and federal partnerships.
So I don't need a motion to ask for itemized, an itemized budget of how this $4.8 million is being spent in a memo, or should I'm happy to move the motion today?
We're happy to provide that memo to committee.
And when would we be able to see it, time and place?
I would say give us a couple of weeks. I'll obviously need to follow up with staff.
So that would be on the agenda for the November committee meeting?
Yes, we can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, next we've got Vice Chair. Go ahead, Tim.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just, to address the comments and the questions raised by Councillor Nicholson regarding Ritson School, as Chair of Economic and Development Services at the City of Oshawa, I know that we went through a process to make sure that the school was designated as a heritage site. I know there are elements that aren't, and those aren't subject to the same sort of requirements. But I can tell you that the expectation at the city and of the community, and I hope of this council, when a report comes back with the potential of doing anything aside from ensuring an adaptive reuse, that we proceed on that path where we can repurpose the school with the heritage designation as an adaptive reuse, as opposed to the alternative and, considering anything outside of that. So I guess in plain English, I'll tell you, from my standpoint, both as vice chair here and as chair at the city and as a council member and a resident, the expectation is that we not have a report that comes here that asks for any heritage attribute or designation to be demolished on that site. If that's the case, we're going to have a big problem. So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just speaking plain English. It's not to criticize or to impose myself. I'm just going to say, right here, right now, that's not going to be something that we're going to entertain. And I hope that staff understands that. And having heard the comments and response by the CAO, I trust that that's the case. So moving forward, we look forward to seeing also who the potential proponents are that would be partnering in on that site, through you, Mr. Chair. Because sometimes, folks that are interested in developing sites may not have the same sensitivity that we do to, I wouldn't say simply heritage or the community, but to the need for the discussion to leave outside of the equation what should be already termed by us as a department and council to them. So if they know they're starting from ground zero, they're going to go for the entire basket. If they know that they're not going to be able to demolish this because there's a heritage designation and we're not entertaining it, then I think that sets the discussion up differently, and then we can move forward from there. But if we're entertaining offers from partners in any way, shape, or form that include the demolition of the entire property, I think you're not doing your providing I think the framework that is realistic and required to move forward without having a massive fight. And I don't think that this council or community needs more fights of this nature. So that's through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to be, in plain English, open and honest about the potential of any partnership with someone that wishes to have any interest in demolishing the entire site.
Okay, I have a red box from our CAO. Go ahead, Elaine.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mr. Chair. I don't know where this speculation has come from. I do want to remind the committee that we are going through a very extensive community engagement process on this site because we wanted to ensure that whatever was done with it, that the community fully 100% supported it. At no point did we ever consider demolishing the heritage components of the building. That is still in the plan, and its intended use is for community use. There may be development options on other areas of the site, and we would not be entertaining or going to market for that matter until council had received and approved the projected future use of the site. But again, I am not aware of a single discussion about demolishing the building. If that has come up at staff, so be it, but it is not the intention of staff. And I think right now people are reacting a little bit to rumors, but I assure you we will be coming back with options in the new year.
Okay, we do have the vice chair again. And I wonder if, just before you jump in, I think designations on heritage are on a property, not on a building, is my understanding. Is there anyone in the room who knows that? It's both? Because I know on our museum site, when we built our fire hall, we had to adapt that. So I wonder if that might be where some of this came from. But Vice Chair, go ahead.
No, I just, it may be, a separate discussion, maybe something of an in-camera nature as to where or what, but this is not the conversation that I was intending or what I was speaking to. It's not so much about staff, it's about expectations that we set. And I hope that if there's anyone that's listening that is involved in this project and is speaking to a potential partner, that they understand that if the partner is bringing forward any notion of doing anything outside the scope of respecting the heritage designation, then they're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem, and it's not something that's going to be palatable. And I think trying to save staff in this council from any sort of controversy with respect to that project, because I think it could be a positive one if that element is not only understood but respected.
Okay, I think you've been crystal clear, sir. Thank you. All right. So we are down to the end of our agenda. I think we've gone through other and unfinished business. Councillor Nicholson, do you want to motion to adjourn? Seconded by the Vice Chair. Any questions or comments? Our next meeting is November the 8th. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks, folks. Thanks.